Hi, and welcome to the Graduation with Leadership Distinction workshop hosted by the Center for Integrative and Experiential Learning. If you're considering studying abroad and wanting to learn more about how you can apply your experiences towards earning GLD, we hope that you find this presentation helpful and informative. For just a little bit of background about our office, the Center for Integrative and Experiential Learning, or CEIL for short, is the University of South Carolina's integrative learning initiative aimed at helping you make the most of your experience here by helping you make connections between your beyond the classroom and within the classroom experiences. And these connections for beyond the classroom experiences can include things like internships, study abroad, peer leadership, research, community service, and advocacy. We hope to help enhance your learning by helping you identify where your within the classroom and your beyond the classroom learning connects. So how you're seeing those theories and things that you're learning within the classroom play out in real life. For a bit more information about GLD specifically, GLD is an official academic distinction that serves to formally acknowledge your accomplishments both within and beyond the classroom. When earned, it appears on your degree and your diploma. On your degree, it indicates leadership distinction, and on your transcript, it indicates leadership distinction in your given pathway. So if you are pursuing the global learning pathway, it shows as leadership distinction in global learning. And then we have some wonderful cords seen here on the screen for graduation as just an additional way to recognize you at graduation. But GLD really is a formal acknowledgement of your accomplishments both within and beyond the classroom. Listed here, you'll see the 5 different pathways that you're able to pursue through GLD, but for the purposes of this presentation, I'll concentrate only on global learning, since you maybe already have studied abroad or will be studying abroad very soon. But please note that if you'd like to discuss how your experiences might fit within another pathway, we would welcome you to visit our website to learn more information, or you can even schedule an appointment to talk with a GLD advisor to learn more. Here we'll start to talk about the GLD requirements, or the things that you'll need to have accomplished by the time you graduate in order to earn GLD. I'm going to talk about most of these in more depth later, but the thing I want to touch on here for just a moment is the 3.0 GPA requirement. You'll need to have a 3.0 GPA by the time you graduate, and this is calculated using your cumulative or your life GPA. And if you're all concerned about reaching that 3.0, I would recommend going to talk with your academic advisor and maybe talking about a plan about how you can reach that by the time you graduate. You'll see here the core requirement of all of the pathways that we offer. I'm only going to focus on the global learning pathway, but if you'd like, you can pause it here to review the other pathways' core requirements. You'll notice actually for the global learning pathway, we have a few different ways that you can fulfill this requirement, and the first is through 12 weeks of study abroad or international experience. The 12-week study abroad experience is the most commonly used method to fulfill the core requirement for this pathway, and this is usually what people think of when they think of typical semesters abroad, but you don't necessarily need to have completed this all in one go. You can combine experiences to reach the 12-week requirement. So if you've gone on a couple of Maymesters, or if you've gone on a Maymester with maybe a half a semester, all of those things are things that can count towards that 12 weeks of study abroad experience. The second way to fulfill the core requirement for this pathway is through 8 weeks of faculty-led study abroad, and you'll notice that the week requirement for these faculty-led trips is a bit less. That's because faculty-led trips tend to be more guided and more immersive. If you're not sure whether the study abroad experience you participated in would be counted towards faculty-led or the typical study abroad experience, I would recommend reaching out to the Office of Study Abroad. They're going to be a great guide for you in figuring out which of your experiences meets the requirements for the pathway. The final way to fulfill the core requirement of this pathway is through 6 weeks of faculty-led study abroad, plus a total of 60 hours or more of a focused local international experience. We call them GLOCAL for short, which essentially just stands for global but local. And these activities are things that you can do in Colombia or in the United States, and they're focused on helping you understand another culture or a part of the world in a deeper capacity. Global experiences can include things like Buddies Beyond Borders, conversation partners, and global navigator mentors. But for more examples of global experiences, you can visit our website included at the end of this presentation, and you can review the degree requirements for the global learning pathway. For the coursework component, you'll need to complete 6 credit hours of courses on the approved course list, which can be found on our website, or the GLD application itself. You need to have made a B or better in the course that you choose, and we cannot accept pass-fail courses. However, we are making exceptions for courses taken during this semester affected by the coronavirus. I typically recommend that students pull up their transcript and the approved course list side by side. It does make looking for those courses a little easier. However, please know that if you can't find a course on the approved course list that you've taken, that's okay. We understand. We do have a propose a course option available in the GLD application. And to use this, all you'll need to do is fill out the information typically found on your transcript, such as the course name and the semester you took the course, along with a justification of why you're choosing that course and how it relates to your pathway. If you do choose to propose a course, note that we're really looking for things that you've really gotten out of that course, rather than something like a course description. Enhancement experiences or enhancement activities are anything and everything that help you understand your connection to your pathway or enhance your understanding of your pathway. You'll need to participate in at least 3 of these activities for your GLD application, and you'll see a list on the right-hand side here of the types of activities you might consider engaging in. But keep in mind that events you attend while abroad, such as cultural events, guest lectures you attend outside of class, and workshops also can qualify as enhancement activities, even pre-departure workshops. You won't need to provide a rationale for these experiences, but please know that sometimes it's not always immediately apparent to our staff how your activities relate to your pathway. And if that's the case, just know that we'll reach out to you for more information and clarification about your experience. For GLD, you'll need to complete a public presentation, meaning open to the public, and for most people that means presenting at Discover USC, which takes place in the spring. However, there are other options for students graduating in other semesters, such as the SEAL Fall Showcase and the Summer Research Symposium. Your presentation will cover a meaningful beyond the classroom experience and your reflection on that experience. You'll see a photograph on the right-hand side of the screen here. This is just what the presentation experience at Discover USC looks like. It's a bit more conversational. Faculty, staff, and other students might be walking around and stop to either listen to or ask you questions about your experience, and it's a great way to share with other people what you've learned. One important distinction here is that your presentation doesn't necessarily need to directly relate to your pathway. So if you've chosen the global learning pathway, but you have an unrelated research project you want to present on, that's okay. We do accept some alternatives to the traditional presentation experience as well. However, there are a few key components for alternative presentations to meet before we'll be able to accept them. The first is that they'll need to be open to the public and they need to include a reflective component on your experience, and there can be no more than 2 presenters. If you feel that your presentation meets these requirements, you can fill out an alternative presentation form on our website and then attach it to your GLD application. You'll also need to include a piece of evidence for your presentation, such as a PDF, a PowerPoint, or a photograph of your poster. Other alternatives include academic publications in peer-reviewed journals, and for this we'll also need a copy of your publication, or nominated scholarship application materials. These include the Truman, Rhodes, Marshall, Goldwater, Udall, Mitchell, Fulbright, and Boren. You don't actually have to be awarded these scholarships as they're fairly competitive, but if you do go through the interview and application process, we will accept your application materials as an alternative. We're about to discuss all that's involved with the ePortfolio, but I'd like to leave you with some tips to think about before you go abroad. The ePortfolio will ask that you reflect deeply on your experiences, and reflection can look a little differently for everyone. Studying abroad can often be a transformative experience, and these are some questions to help get you thinking about that experience in maybe a different way. There are no right or wrong answers, but it may be interesting to compare your answers now to your answers when you return. You can ask yourself, what do I expect about my time abroad? The types of things I'll do, I'll see, or I'll experience. Am I traveling abroad with any preconceived notions or stereotypes about the country I'm visiting, its people, or its culture? How might I be challenged throughout this experience, or where do I expect to experience the most growth? And what do I look forward to the most about my time abroad? Or what am I looking forward to least during my time abroad? And next, it's a great idea to document your experiences, both for yourself and to be potentially used in your ePortfolio. You can keep notes during class or about activities that you participate in. You might even choose to keep a journal or a blog about your experiences. You can have friends take candid photos of you, in addition to those posed and smiling photos. Or you can choose to keep a record or a daily log of your activities so you can remember them in greater detail later. The culminating piece to GLD is the ePortfolio, which is a series of essays housed on a website that you'll make which articulate the learning and connections you've made across your experiences during your time in college. A lot of folks will use Wix or Weebly to create their website. We absolutely don't expect for you to pay for a domain name, but if Wix or Weebly aren't suitable, please feel free to use any kind of platform that you're most comfortable using. We also have a variety of samples on our website, as well as a content guide and a rubric. And you'll see from some of the examples that everyone takes a different creative approach to their website, but each will have the same 3 sections. The first section is an About Me page where you'll have a chance to introduce yourself to your reviewer or whoever may be reading your ePortfolio. This is an opportunity to talk about maybe how you came to find your major, share an overview of what your ePortfolio will address, and then introduce your pathway as well. The Key Insights section tends to be where most students spend the majority of their time, largely because you'll need 3 Key Insight essays. Key Insight essays explore the connection between your within the classroom learning and your beyond the classroom experiences. And then they explore what's been challenging or most impactful for you about that connection. And know that you're not limited here to discussing what you've just listed in your application, regardless of what pathway you choose. But know that you will be expected to at least relate your experiences in some way back to your pathway. And this is where you can be really creative and stretch yourself to make those connections that will be truly unique to you. Finally, the leadership section is where you'll identify an issue or a problem, maybe related to your major or your intended career field or even your pathway, and then write an implementation plan of how you would want to see that issue or problem addressed. We encourage students to be as specific as possible here, and the more specific you can make your chosen issue, the easier it will be to think through an action plan. The cliche example here is choosing something like global food insecurity. To narrow it down, you might be able to choose a specific community or population in your area that you could help with food insecurity just by getting involved yourself. Make it feasible. And if you can actually see yourself enacting the plan, the easier it's going to be to write. And if you can't see yourself enacting the plan you've created, maybe it's time to narrow down a little further and make it a little more specific. A note about something you'll need to include with your key insights are what we call artifacts. Artifacts are things that you have created that show evidence of your learning or clearly illustrate and support the connection you're trying to make within your key insight. You'll need to include 2 artifacts per key insight, so 1 artifact for your within the classroom learning and 1 artifact for your beyond the classroom experience. By the time you complete your ePortfolio, you should have a total of 6 artifacts. Good artifacts can include things like blogs or journals that you kept while abroad, notes about your involvement of events that you attended or cultural events during your time abroad, or even things like logs of activities you participated in and meeting and class notes as well. You'll see in the slide here that pictures has an asterisk next to it, and we will accept photos, but with a caveat. For photos, you're going to need to heavily articulate why this photograph is evidence of your learning, and we're much more interested in photos where you are engaged or involved in something rather than something like a posed photo. For posed photos, it's a little more difficult for us to see how it's evidence of your learning during your time abroad. And so for artifacts to avoid, what we would like to not see are photos of things such as your passport, photos you're not in, or things such as receipts of activities that you've participated in. We recognize that sometimes the ePortfolio can seem like a daunting project, and the reflective writing style that it requires is something that can take some time to get used to. And so with that being said, we have some options for you to help support you while you write. University 401 is the method that we most highly recommend as it's the most structured of the three available. It's a 1 credit hour course that just meets one time per week, but it's solely focused on helping you create content for your ePortfolio and getting support through that process. And because of the amount of support that you get through this method, we see the highest pass rate for the ePortfolio. And sometimes even University 401 professors will kind of wrap in some discussion about presentations at Discover USC as well. And so it's important to know that you'll turn in your ePortfolio at the end of the semester in whichever U401 course that you choose, but structured advisement and independently pursued ePortfolios will have a deadline midway through the semester, and this is to accommodate the review process of your ePortfolio. So moving on to structured advisement, this is our middle of the road option between the most supported and the least supported methods. And through structured advisement, you'll have a chance to sign up for a series of workshops either with a GLD advisor or a faculty fellow. And so we'll meet in a small group setting to talk once about your key insights and then again to talk about your leadership meeting. And then in between these first two meetings, you'll have an opportunity to meet one-on-one with your advisor or faculty fellow. We'll discuss any feedback, questions, or revisions. You can also communicate to us by email to request draft reviews, or you can always seek outside help from folks such as the Peer Writing Lab. The last method we have to choose from is the independent process, and this is by far our least supported method to complete your ePortfolio. GLD advisors are not able to schedule appointments with you, and we cannot review drafts or provide feedback. However, you can seek feedback from those outside sources like the Peer Writing Lab to assist you along the way. Occasionally we get asked why it's important to pursue GLD or what are the benefits of completing GLD in the first place. And so here on the screen you'll find some academic sources about the benefits of writing an ePortfolio, but we've also heard some consistent messages from past students who've completed this process as well. And what other students have told us is that completing the ePortfolio helps them articulate their college experiences more complexly and more deeply, and sharing these experiences then with future employers or on grad school applications has felt more comfortable because of the amount of time and energy they've spent with connecting their beyond the classroom experiences to their within the classroom learning. And it's a good feeling to be able to talk with other people about the tangible knowledge and skills that you've gained, or just to share impactful moments that you've gained out of your time here at Carolina. And if not to share with other people, even just exploring that for yourself. College can go by so fast sometimes if you're concentrating on the next assignment or paper or even next semester. And the ePortfolio can be a chance and a space for you before you graduate to just reflect on what's been most meaningful for you during your time here. So if you have made it this far and are still interested in graduating with leadership distinction, we'd love to talk with you or have you fill out an application to start the process. And so out here on the screen are some next steps. We'd like for you to first go and watch our short orientation video and take a 10-question quiz on that video. And then you can start your application and begin filling out your experiences within that. But know that if you ever have any questions or concerns about maybe where your experiences fit, or you'd like to talk a little bit more about any aspect of the GLD process that we've covered today, please feel free to schedule an appointment with an advisor through EAB. We would love to speak with you more about your experiences and how they will fit within our process.